afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming to help this Ciokon family, Mary, Joe, Ramon, Lisa, celebrate the life of Joe and share memories of him. My name is Bruce Knight. I'm a retired Senior Chief Petty Officer in the Navy, and I've known Joe Ciokon through judo for 39 years. I first met Joe in 1982 at the Olympic Training Center, Colorado Springs, Colorado, where I was an attendee to the All-Navy Judo training camp there, and Joe Ciokon was the head coach. It wasn't until a few years later, in 1991, I transferred to North Island, across the bridge over there, where I joined the base judo club. That's how I really got to know Joe as a teacher, a mentor, and a friend. Joe taught beginning judo classes at VBSD, that's the Veterans Village of San Diego. The VBSD, they're the founders of the San Diego stand down that went nationwide, pretty much. So every year, they have a stand down here in San Diego at Balboa. Stand down provides an opportunity for homeless veterans to access various services, and Joe was always a participant for each of those events each year. Joe also taught judo at North Island with Gene Reed and myself. We had 4 classes per week for active duty personnel. As most of you know, Joe volunteered as PAO for USS Midway, where he offered VIP and group tours, which some of you may have attended. You know, after Joe found out that I spent 5 years on this ship, the USS Midway, he asked if I would become a docent. And I told him that I would think about it. And Joe, I'm still thinking about it. There were many local judo tournaments over the years, and you could depend on Joe for assistance in getting the VBSD personnel to assist in the mat setup and breakdown at all of the local San Diego area tournaments, including Vista and San Marcos, and sometimes in La Costa, California. The base judo club, North Island Judo Club, we also participated in LA area tournaments. I remember one tournament, Joe checked out the base recreation services 15-passenger van. We all would meet on base, load up the van, and leave the base with Joe driving. Joe would stop in Pico Rivera to pick up one of his good friend, Bill. Joe then drove the rest of the way to the tournament for the club to compete. Let's say his van driving was less than stellar. It wasn't reckless driving, but perhaps improper driving. Somehow we got there safely. Needless to say, I made sure I got the keys on the way back. Now, to be honest, I've ridden with Joe in his car numerous times, and that was okay. Lastly, I visited the Ciokon home a few times to work on Joe's computer. But a dear memory of mine, this time I was invited for Easter dinner with the entire family, and I enjoyed that very much. There's a lot more memories about Joe, but to keep this short, I must end it here. Mary, I will miss your husband. Joe, Ramon, and Lisa, I will miss your dad. Thank you, everyone. Bill. Bill.
Those that cannot hear me, raise your hands. Bruce was not completely honest when he was talking about the dojo. Joe used to pull into the VIP parking spot and then go inside and shake hands and make comments. Bruce did all the work. Bruce was the one that ran the thing. He's amazing. Him and Gene were the ones that did all the hard work. Joe did too. But Bruce was the backbone of the whole process. He was talking about Joe's driving. Joe and I met, and we're totally from different forms of life when we got together. We had two things in common. We both like jazz, and we both went to the same driving school. If you ever wanted to know what Joe's real name was, all you had to be was be in the car with him when he took a curve a little too fast, or changed lanes a little too quick. And Mary always would say, "Joseph!" every time. And Joe was, Joe was my friend and my brother for 59 years. 59 years. You know, they say when people get married, you don't only marry the spouse, you marry the family. Well, Mary was not warned about me. So poor Mary has been tolerating me for all these years. Joe and I were together first in Panama. Joe entered into the Navy. His goal was to become a jet fighter, a pilot. And his eyesight was good, but there was something not good enough for that job. So he became a writer, a speaker, this and that. When I got to Panama, I was introduced to a bunch of people, none of which I liked very much. And then all of a sudden, I'm going up a stairway, and this skinny neck sailor guy with a big Adam's apple and a booming voice. "Hi, I'm Ciokon." Yeah. We became really good friends. It took a little while. We became really good friends. We started out, I went to Panama because I had Army training. I went to AIT. I had mountain training, jungle training. I went to Fort Bragg for a week to learn how to jump out of airplanes. And Joe was an altar boy. He was the nicest guy in the world. Now, he spent a lot of time trying to help me be a good guy. And I spent a lot of time trying to help him be a badass. And I don't think either one of us succeeded. But anyway, so he was an anchor on a TV radio station, and everything was fine. I went to Panama to go to Jungle Warfare Training Center. I waited a couple of days till somebody called my name. And the guy picked up my duffel bag and took me to this place. And it was a radio TV station. So what is this about? But they didn't have to go early. They didn't have to get up early. And they had a guy that for $3 a week would shine their shoes, make their bed, and get their clothes clean. So I said, I'll just stay here. After a while, though, I don't know what happened, but at some point, Joe and I were at the Jungle Warfare Training Center. And for some reason, we were doing night flights. And I was jumping out of C-130s. I said, well, what's going on here? Joe and I had he was much older than I am. I think about 2 or 4 days. But at the last few years, we celebrated our birthdays together. Mainly because he paid for it. But he was a smart guy. When when I was 75, I celebrated with jumping out of an airplane. So Joe, let's go. He goes, nah, I'll watch. I'll tell you, I can't stay here and tell you stories about Joe because I'll be here for 3 days. But I'll tell you a couple quick ones. Joe was really, he wasn't, I cannot tell you guys what Joe was like because everybody knows Joe. And he was the same guy. Matter of fact, that annoyed me because if you take people that know me and you choose the ones, you line up the people that don't like me, the line will go around the block twice. The people that like me, you get maybe 2.5 persons. With Joe, everybody liked him. So what's up with that, you know? But, you know, when people die, one of the benefits of dying is everybody becomes good. She was such a nice person. She was a great mom. She was a great wife. He was fantastic. He was quite a father. He was great. Well, Joe was that before he died. He was always a good guy. I never saw him scream. Yeah, one time I did see him scream. And anybody that knows me has heard this story 10 times. We were in the jungle, and we were running for a helicopter. And Joe had heard me many times. I mean, because I can't get rid of the Mexican color. So he heard many times while we were goofing around saying, "Viva Mexico! Viva Zapata! Viva Pancho Villa!" So we were in the jungle that time, and we were ready for a chopper that was going to pick us up. And we were being fired at with them little 6-foot, 10-inch bullets. And the chopper, some of you, most of you, a lot of you are military. The chopper, it took about 17 seconds for the enemy to pick them off. So when every chopper landed, they would go 17, 16, 15. When you got to 1, if you were on it or not, they take off. So we were running, being fired at, and Joe had the calmness to say, "Viva mis zapatos," which, if you speak Spanish, means "long live my shoes." When Joe was, when the Panama riots happened, I'll give you one more. When the Panama riots happened, Jim Patterson was our program director, and he was the one narrating, and there's people coming over the fence. He says there's demonstrators jumping over the fence, they're breaking the fence down, they're doing this, they're doing that. And then Jim Patterson got stabbed. And as he was stabbed, Joe was next to him. And on the way down, he reaches up and hands Joe the microphone. And Joe picks up the microphone and he says, "Our program director has just been stabbed." Now, over on the left, he went on. You never give me a microphone because I'll be here all day, but I won't. I can tell you a lot of stories, but everybody here can. But I'm just telling you. I could tell you the Joe and Mary story. If I wrote a book about Joe and Mary, it would be 1 page. It would say, Joe loves Mary, Mary loves Joe. That's it. I got one more thing in case Joe is listening. I wanna do one thing, and if you guys want to join me, please do. I want to take a deep breath, and then I want to count to 3. And in case he's listening, I want to point up to the sky, and I want to say, "I love you, Joe." So if you guys want to join me, take a deep breath. 1, 2, 3. I love you, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Is there anyone else who wanted to say a few words about Joe Ciokon coming up now, please?
My name is Jenny, and Joe is my friend. Can you guys hear me? I'm sorry, Joe, Lisa, Ray. Joe was a hell of a mentor, man, to me. I first met him in Triple Threat, 1998. And we have a lot in common, military. And Joe reminded me of my grandpa and my father. So we had that bond there, but we had another bond that we enjoyed. It was writing. I became a published author, and he was a journalist. We had a lot in common, and you know what? He was just the funniest guy. You had to really know him because he could make you laugh. But he was always talking about his family, his kids, the love of his life, which is married. But he had a wicked sense of humor, but he was never inappropriate. He could just make you laugh, and I loved him for that. Joe, if you're listening, I miss you, my friend. Peace.
My name's Jack Lyon, and back in 1981, we started VBSD. Ken was the founder of that. It was then called the Vietnam Veterans of San Diego, and we did it to save each other, so to speak. And in the mid-'80s, Joe came aboard and served on our board of directors when it was lean times and when it was a little more fat, a little more rich times. And he was a stalwart on that board. And to me, when I think about Joe, I help out down at Balboa with the wounded kids from OIF, OEF. And I talk about the idea that when the arrow leaves the bow, when the arrow is an arrow of service, you may change outfits, you may change costumes, but you're still a service. And to me, Joe's a perfect example of a life of service. You know, obviously it's visible when you're in the Navy or whatever. It's visible to me when he sat on our board of directors. Visible to me at Stand Down. Visible here on the Midway. All of the things where he was of service to other people. That sort of outpour that we heard about just a little while ago. He was open and available. And I never went to anything like we would go to a lot of mutual events at the Veterans Museum. You know, we sort of started the United Veterans Council back in those early 80s. Every time I went there, I could count on Joe, A, being there, and secondly, a warm embrace and openness and availability, yes. And man, that's a real gift in life, particularly in Veterans Affairs. Sometimes there's a lot of people pulling one way or the other. And the ability to say yes was a great thing that Joe had. And then one of the things that was crucial to us in the beginning was triple threat. We heard about that just a second ago. But triple threat, we were all in recovery. We were recovering addicts and alcoholics way back when. And now we've got, 40 years clean and sober, so to speak. But Joe came to those meetings on Monday night, normally Monday and Wednesday night as well. And he became a maypole, the way I see it, for a lot of the new folks that were trying to catch on to revolve around and know was there. There's nothing like having a point of reference like that. There's nothing like somebody you could count on. And for sure, to me, it was Joe, and I'll miss that, you know. When I go to the Veterans Museum or whatever, I'll look around kind of, and I'll realize there's a void there. There's a little less light there. Because for sure, Joe Ciokon was a point of light, man. He lit the room up. And I'm sure we all miss him. I do for sure. Thank you.
My name is Tom Sayer. I'm a member of the San Diego Downtown Breakfast Rotary Club. And Joe was a longtime member of our club and a very, very good friend. He he's responsible for probably the greatest Rotary moments of our entire club. When he was the public affairs officer for the Admiral over North Island, he spearheaded the VIP program, and he was able to get our entire club, anybody that wanted to, this is before 9/11, to get on the cod, fly out of North Island, trap onto the carrier, spend 24 hours, flight ops, night ops, and then, catapult off of there and back to North Island. And it was just an amazing experience getting to do that, and that was Joe. And then also, he got us all involved with BDSD and with Stand Down. We painted walls and buildings and rooms at BDSD. We've served breakfast just about every year at Stand Down on Saturday and Sunday. And those are just wonderful moments of service that I have that are Joe's responsibility. Joe got us to do all that. And just so grateful to have gotten to know Joe. He's known in all the circles that I travel as a national treasure. Just one of those guys. So, wonderful, wonderful man. Thank you.
Anyone else want to say a few words?
Joe was my uncle, Joe. Well, more like a second dad for the past 20-some years. Uncle Joe, he saved my life in a way. I lived in Chicago. I was taking away from people. I was doing pretty bad. And one day I just hopped on a Greyhound, April, Chicago. It was freezing cold. I had sweatpants on, sweatshirt. I hit Nevada. I thought I was going to die. And then I got to San Diego. It was late at night. There was Auntie Mary and Uncle Joe waiting for me. And Uncle Joe wanted to hug me, but I was like, don't touch me. I've been on a bus for 3 days. But they took me in. They took me in, and Uncle took care of me for a long time. He was a great person. And then I had my daughter, and he became like, he was a great uncle, but he would always say honorary grandpa. She didn't have her grandpa anymore, so she was more like an honorary grandpa. But I just wanted to say I'm really going to miss my uncle. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be standing here today.
Hi, my name is Hector, and I'm a veteran in recovery. It's good to be here and to get to talk about Joe. I first met Joe at a Triple Threat BDSD meeting. I was a nobody, My sponsor passed away. He was a Vietnam vet too, Father Mike, and not knowing all the great things that Joe had accomplished, I can tell you that he would make time once a week to come see me when I was broken and unsure of my future. And he was a man who had 58 years sober, who still made time for a homeless, broken, junkie vet. And I can say that I'm really going to miss him. And I love his family. I love Mary. I love his children. And, it just gives me that much more drive to just continue doing what I'm doing because I do have a passion for veterans. And if it wasn't for somebody like Joe to come around and show interest and just be about what he was about to the very end, and and he's gonna be missed. But lucky for me, I get to take care of him. You know, at the Miramar Cemetery, I'm a caretaker there, and I had the privilege today because I'm a veteran in recovery who is working and responsible and productive because of institutions like VVSD, and you know what? It's like truly grateful to be a success story because of Joe. You know, Joe really did go out above and out of his way to make sure that he developed a relationship with me, and I appreciate that about him, and I'll never forget it. Thank you.
Mary, I'm sorry for your loss. Joe was a unique individual. Coming here in 2004, I'm one of the oldest docents here on the ship. Joe was not only dedicated to the Midway, but he was a cheerleader for us docents, especially for the first two females that came aboard the Midway to become docents. He was instrumental in getting me to get the experience of my lifetime. Going to the Nimitz, landing on the Nimitz, spending the night there, and taking off the next day. That was a wonderful experience I will never forget. Joe, thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Quiroz. I'm a nephew to Uncle Joe. Growing up in Chicago, I had the privilege to know all my aunts and uncles, and I saw them routinely. I was surrounded with family, and I wasn't ever really around Aunt Mary and Uncle Joe, but I always knew I had this mythical uncle somewhere off in the Navy, somewhere around the world. I was really young when Beirut happened, but I remember when the phone call came in at Aunt Marilyn's house. So Uncle Joe to me was always the real-life G.I. Joe. So in the 80s, G.I. Joe was every kid's favorite TV show or cartoon. So at that age, I remember, I may join the military. I may join the Navy. And in 1986, or it must have been 86, 87, Uncle Joe, Aunt Mary, and the family came to Chicago, and that was the same year as Top Gun coming out, whatever year that was, 86, 87. And Uncle Joe, to me, was Top Gun. So I said, that's it. I know once I'm able to join, I'm going to join. Well, it wasn't tough enough to join the Navy, but I was smart enough to join the Air Force. So, fast forward to the future, I'm able to enlist, and everything I was going to do in my mind was like, I'm going to outdo Uncle Joe, or try to at least. And then comes my very first deployment to Saudi Arabia, to Prince Sultan Air Base, and it's 5 million degrees outside, in the middle of nowhere, and no family, and obviously you have your buddies there. And I remember thinking, like, wow, Uncle Joe, thanks for this. This is great torture. You've inspired torture in my life. And I somehow, some way, got a way to call Uncle Joe, and Uncle Joe was still at North Island. It's North Island, right over here. And I was so happy to say, look what I've done, but I couldn't say it just like that. So I was trying to impress him, and I said what I said, and he goes, drink water, and something along the lines of remain vigilant. Basically, give me just be careful. Just be careful. And so Uncle Joe inspired me to become a military member and to be able to say I'm a U.S. veteran. And last night when I was thinking about should I come up here, overcome stage fright and everything, I said, what would I say? And I would say, thank you, Uncle Joe, for inspiring me to become E5. I did my 8 years and separated. Thank you for my service inspiring me. And this morning I thought about it, but what Uncle Joe really gave me, if I can try to connect the dots, is through that deployment, through being stationed in California, I met my wife, and Uncle Joe is, in a way, responsible for my wonderful family right here. And just, I want to say thank you, Uncle Joe, for giving me the life that I have now. I don't know if he knew that when he was here, but he did. Thank you, Uncle Joe.
Got 2 minutes for one more. Anyone else? Hey, Lisa.
I just wanted to say something. I have a list of people that either like Joe a lot or they love him, and they're not able to be here. But I'm telling you, I think he's listening. So I want him to know that they really, really would want to be here, and they love him. It's Chris Kelly, we were together in Panama, Jack Mulvane, Hu Chong, Jungle Jim, Ken Kalish, Leela, his wife, Ron Queen, Tom DeSanto, Vic, the astronomer, which is weird, Alex Tujulakian, that did one of the artist conceptions of him and I, Belisa, my other daughter, Tony Cherko, Nikki Javeri, which is in India, Michael, I forgot her name, my niece Lizzie in Panama, she loved him to death, Ricky knows him, my granddaughter Veronica, she would love to be here. Randy Kafka. And these people are really, really great people, and they've been in communication with me, and they constantly have been asking me how Joe was going on, whatever. These people love Joe, and they're sorry they cannot be here. So all of us are very privileged to be here. And I just wanted to mention these people for you.